this video, we're going to be talking about 5 common mindsets that you thought were normal but are actually toxic. Now, starting with number 1, this is the mindset, if they go low, I go lower. Now, how many of y'all think this? I see you. I know it's hard to be petty. It's almost like the match my energy type of thought. However, if we constantly follow this narrative in our relationships, it might not be as healthy as you may think. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because if we're following if they go lower, I go lower mindset, we are operating from a place of lack and fear. Especially if you're trying to build a healthy relationship and they're not trying to be manipulative. That part of you that fear is getting taken advantage of comes out in that moment because they believe that, oh my goodness, they're going low, they're trying to take advantage of me, they're trying to manipulate me. I'm gonna go even lower and show them the taste of their own medicine. But in that moment, we risk the opportunity for connection and healthy communication. And I know, it's easier said than done, but part of being in a healthy relationship is having grace for your partner. I think a lot of us tend to forget that our partner are also human and they make mistakes. They slip up, sometimes they get defensive, or they're trying to protect their inner child. And if we're just worried about protecting ourselves, we're never gonna get into that space where we can create that safety in the relationship. Now, of course, your partner needs to work on this too and not constantly go low. However, we also make mistakes, right? Those times where we lash out when we're upset, those times that we end up shutting down or withdrawing or going silent treatment because we don't know how to deal with our emotions in the moment because triggers are inevitable. However, how you deal with them is going to determine how healthy your relationship is going towards or how toxic it might be going to. So instead of going lower and matching their energy, which inevitably usually just leads to the conflict persisting and y'all just continuously being mad at each other. Instead, I want you to think back in those moments where you were triggered. Instead of your partner coming to you and going lower, being defensive, saying you're wrong and having no compassion for you at all, it helps so much when your partner could just come up to you and say, hey, I notice you're being a little unfair right now. Maybe you're feeling a bit frustrated or emotional. I'll give you some time to breathe. Let's take a breath. I know this isn't you. Like, I'm not against you right now. I'm by your side. You don't need to put up your walls up. That is so much more helpful than I'm going to be against you because you're against me. And I know y'all are probably thinking, okay, but what if they just continuously take advantage of that? What if they take advantage of my compassion? Well, this is where healthy boundaries come in. And if you want to learn more about setting healthy boundaries, make sure you click this video right here so you can dive into that a lot more in depth. But compassion doesn't mean that you're a doormat. Okay? You need to combine compassion with boundaries. However, if you have no compassion in the relationship, it's only going to lead to self-sabotage and, unfortunately, a toxic relationship. Now, moving on to mindset number 2, they should know what I'm thinking. Now, how many of y'all ladies believe this? All right, I used to be guilty of this too. I think this is something that we all kind of struggled with at one point where we think, our partner should just know how I'm feeling. How come they don't understand it? How come they don't just get it? But the truth is, our partners are not mind readers, and we cannot expect them to know exactly what we need, what we want, if we don't communicate it to them. I always tell my clients, closed mouths don't get fed. And this isn't to enable anybody's behavior. However, what I'm saying is that if you want your partner to communicate healthily, you have to set the standard in communicating healthily yourself. Because if you're showing your partner you're going to be passive aggressive, you're going to throw hints at them, you're not really going to communicate, you're going to expect them to know what you're thinking, then you're setting the tone in the relationship that that's what communication is going to look like. Remember, the rule of thumb is you must communicate what it is you want and what you need specifically to your partner at least once. And then you can see how they decide to react to that if they continuously disrespect you or if they choose to listen. And if they're constantly disrespecting you after you tell them about your boundary, then maybe that is a compatibility issue, or maybe that is a deeper issue that y'all need to dive into. Communication, boundaries, compromise, they take work to figure out. However, y'all are not even going to get to that step if you don't communicate in the first place. So make sure you're not just thinking they're gonna mind read and communicate to them. Now, number 3, my partner is supposed to make me happy. And this is for y'all who grew up in an enmeshed environment where maybe you didn't have boundaries growing up, or you heard things like family first, you always have to stick together, or you felt you were responsible to make sure everyone else around you was okay at all times. Now, if this sounds like you most likely internalize this message that my partner is supposed to make me happy. But the truth is, You are responsible for your own happiness. Now, it wasn't fair that this was put on you growing up, where you constantly felt responsible for other people's emotions, tiptoeing around, making sure that they're not upset or mad, people pleasing. And I'm sure it's showing up in your relationship now, which might be the reason why you think other people should do the same and you get frustrated if they don't. However, something I learned that relieved me from so much of this stress is that you are not responsible for anyone's emotions and feelings except your own. Of course, we can impact people's emotions and feelings, and this doesn't mean to take advantage of it. However, you can't control how someone reacts, feels, thinks. You can only control your own. As long as you show up the best way that you could, with pure intention and morals, then you did your job, right? We can't cater to everyone's emotions. That being said, our partner is not our source of happiness, and we shouldn't be making our partner our source of happiness, because what happens when they're busy one day? Maybe at work, having some alone time, and we feel abandoned or hurt, and we feel as if our source of happiness is getting taken away from us. We're not just gonna let our emotions be dependent on one person, because that's not sustainable. Instead of thinking our partner is supposed to be our source of happiness, make sure you learn to fulfill your needs in the different areas of your lives too. It is just as important that you can show up for yourself so you can show up even better in your relationship. And that way your relationship is not turning codependent, rather interdependent. Now, moving on to number 4, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to seem annoying. Now, how many of y'all grew up thinking it is better to just keep quiet and keep the peace because I don't want to be difficult. I don't want to say anything. I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be confrontational. Yeah, I hear you. However, I'm gonna burst your bubble right now and let you know that that is only creating inauthentic relationships where you most likely just build up resentment at the end and explode for one small thing because you kept piling it up, and then all of a sudden people are looking at you like, why are you so upset? And you feel guilty and you try to overcompensate for blowing up. Now, I'm telling you right now, you're not helping anyone by sparing your complaints. The rule of thumb is if something hurts you or upsets you more than twice, it's probably because it's a pattern. It's a wound that you have within yourself that doesn't go away quickly, right? Of course, there are small things that come up here and there that you can just brush off or ignore. It's not going to be a big deal to you. However, if something happens more than once, then you know it's going to come up again in the future, and you have to ask yourself, are you truly going to get upset about this, or are you going to be able to let go of it? And if you know you're not able to let go of it, it's really bothering you, then either work on it internally, right? Figure out what it is you need, why it's making you so upset, and how you can combat this. And maybe the solution is communicating that to your partner, seeing how you can combat this together. Or maybe it was a need that you need to fulfill yourself. However, don't just ignore this and brush it off as no big deal. And I'm telling you right now, it's going to be a lot more helpful in the long run for your relationship if you speak up about it now, rather than just holding it against your partner secretly and then it turning into resentment, because that is not fair to your partner. And last but not least, number 5, whoever cares less in the relationship has the power. Now, all this talk about power in the relationship, who feels in control, who cares more, that is all just ego. And the truth is, this mindset only operates in a dysfunctional relationship. When you're in a healthy relationship, it's not about who cares more, who cares less. It's about working together as a team. And you hear that language, right? You care more, I care less, I care more, you care less. That is all me against you language. And when you are operating in that space in a relationship, you are no longer by your partner's side. And it can quickly turn toxic, which is why instead of focusing on who cares more or less and holding on to your ego, take a second to let it go. And I know it's scary, especially if you've done this for a long time. However, remember, a healthy relationship is all about creating vulnerability and a safe space to connect. And if you truly struggle with this, you most likely have a wound of feeling powerless. Maybe you feel out of control in your life, or uncertainty makes you feel upset or anxious. And if this is you, you need to work on this wound and find other ways that make you feel in control. And that does not mean controlling your partner. Of course, we can dive into this a lot more in depth, and if you want to explore some of your wounds and work on it together, you can book a call using the link below. But with that said, comment down below which of these mindsets you used to believe in. And remember, you're not alone. We've all thought of these things before. However, now that you're aware of it, you can learn and grow from this. Now that's it for today's video. My name is Coach Jeanette from Jeanette to Exito, and if you like anything personal development or healthy relationships, make sure you hit subscribe and join the tribe. And as always, you got this.